welcome to a special series, One Nation, 100% Nutrition. Micronutrients, including vitamins and minerals, are crucial for maintaining overall health and preventing diseases. While micronutrient deficiency is a major health problem in India, it is also a global issue affecting nearly half of the world's people. Despite their importance, deficiencies affect people of all ages, impairing individual health and hindering social as well as national development. Hence, understanding the essential nutritional elements and adopting a balanced diet is vital for boosting immunity, reducing diseases, and promoting well-being. To discuss the importance of micronutrients, today we have with us Professor Dr. Jagmeet Madan, eminent nutritionist, National President, Indian Dietetic Association, Mr. Sandeep Verma, Country Head, India, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka Bayer Consumer Health, Caroline Melado, Head Sustainability Integration and Inclusive Growth Bayer Consumer Health, Mr. Edward Booty, CEO, Reach 52, and also joining us is Dr. K. Madan Gopal, Advisor on Health, Public Health Administration, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Thank you all so much for joining us today in this very critical conversation. Dr. Gopal, my first question is to you so that you can set the context for our viewers. What are micronutrients and why are they so important? What are the key nutritional elements represented by the ABCD of nutrition that are essential for nourishing the body, boosting immunity, as well as reducing the risk of chronic diseases?
Okay, that's one of the important things because you always find nutrition as carbohydrates, protein, and fats. There are many essential things which are required, though in a very small quantity, but they are very essential for your growth and other well-being. One of the important things, this important element which we talk about, that is iron, that is micronutrient, but is very essential. If you look at the consequences of a deficiency of this micronutrients, you take the example of your iron, the small micronutrient, which is essential for your hemoglobin. Hemoglobin contains iron, and iron is known for oxygen binding properties. If they are deficient, that means the transport system is affected in the body. So in the common terms, if you want to understand that, even just small deficiency of iron, you see the consequences. The transport system is getting deficient. As a result, the consequences of other things are quite visible. It affects the other organs, and as a result, the chain of events and other things happen. The other small micronutrient which is essential is the iodine, which is required for synthesis of the thyroxine hormone. And thyroxine, we all know that there are only three hormones which are glycogenic. One of it is thyroxine. All the elements are there, but for burning the fuels in the body, you require a spark. And this thyroxine acts as a spark in the body. So that's why this micronutrient, though they are required in small quantity, but they are having a wider ramification.
If I can just come to you, Dr. Jagmeet, since we are talking about why it's important before we go on to our panelists here in studio, what role can dietary changes, supplementation and fortification play addressing micronutrient deficiencies, and how should these strategies be implemented in our day-to-day life?
So today we are talking about not only nutrition adequacy, but we are also talking about the nutrition security. Within the frame of caloric intake, are we in a position to provide these, micronutrients, which are essentially your vitamins and minerals, which cannot be synthesized by the body? That's very important. And that's where we need them from the diet. The vulnerable groups in a given population are essentially your young children, adolescents, pregnant and lactating women, elderly, and to my mind, today's vulnerable group, as a nutritionist, I feel are also young adults, because that comprises 60% of this country. So if we are not paying attention to the quality of the diet which they are consuming, somewhere we are missing the point. Because something as simple as, like vitamin D deficiency, we never thought it was a problem. But there have been instances wherein we have found normal individuals having very low levels of vitamin D. And today there is science to tell us that vitamin D works at the receptor level, and vitamin D deficiency can precipitate insulin resistance, leading to diabetes and many, many cardiometabolic risk factors. So even though vitamin D, we don't have very many rich sources of vitamin D, food sources. So if we fortify vitamin D in foods, that becomes a very good vehicle, yeah, to ensure that a basic amount of vitamin D which is needed is being provided, in our diet. So using a staple, fortifying it, is a good idea to prioritize, the vulnerable groups and ensuring them that they are getting these important micronutrients. So mostly when we fortify foods, we are giving them in forms which are readily absorbed and utilized by the body.
So now that we know, micronutrients are essential for our body and the impact it has, if you're missing out, since it's been explained so well by Dr. Gopal as well as Dr. Madan. Caroline, what role do you see partnerships playing in driving progress on micronutrient deficiency and the opportunities that you envision for future collaboration to address this very, very critical issue?
We see from a recent report that was published in the Lancet just at the end of last year that based on food intake only, 5 billion people in the world suffer from at least one micronutrient deficiency. That's a global challenge that we can all collaborate to try and improve
the numbers, yeah.
That's what we're trying to do with the Nutrient Gap initiative at Bayer, where we have the ambition to reach 50 million people in underserved communities per year and enable access to essential vitamins and minerals. Okay. So how do we do that? We did the research to understand what are the barriers that prevent individuals from really accessing and consuming those essential vitamins and minerals that we just heard play a significant role in good health. Yeah. Barrier number one is the financial and physical access to vitamins and minerals themselves. Yes. In whatever shape or form they take. We just heard a lot about the importance of diverse diets, the potential for fortification, as well as the critical role of supplementation. Yes. To make sure that the nutritional needs of today can be covered. Barrier number two is education. And part of what we're doing today is also to continue raising awareness about the importance of those micronutrients. What are they? It's not easy because you can't see them. Yes. Where do they come from? And how can I integrate them in my daily life? And finally, we are trying to enable a broader environment where we can all join forces to try and really move the needle together. And this is our advocacy part, trying to move policies, programs, corporate commitments, as well as investments across the different organizations, including development agencies, to put nutrition at the center of good health. Nutrition really is, critical. I mean, at this point, like you said, center of good health. And what you said, awareness really is the key, I think, because people don't get to know how it's impacting their body, like the doctors explained. Edward, I want to ask you, what do you think the role of community-based initiatives? Tell us at the work that Reach 52 does. What has your findings been?
We've been working with Bayer in both UP and Karnataka, really looking to understand the nutritional needs, and insights from the communities themselves, surveying about 40,000 households, as well as the health workforce. And the insights were really quite staggering. I mean, the first one that jumps out, linking directly to awareness, was just the fact that a majority of people thought they had the right levels of nutrition. The perception is that I am okay. The perception is that my diet is good enough. Yeah. And when we actually looked at the data, it was in 87% and 75% in UP and Karnataka respectively, did not have the right dietary diversity, did not have the right intake. So I'll pause there, but the first really big insight was just this huge gap between that, perception around my diet and the actual reality of the dietary diversity and nutritional supplementation that you should be having and should be needing.
I think, Sandeep, that's why I want to come to you. What he said, obviously body mass index, or how a person is, working, the productivity, it impacts the economy of a country. And that's why I want to ask you, what are the tools that Bayer is using when it comes to, dealing with malnutrition? Are you all, targeting intervention, education, or advocacy?
Okay, so firstly, we deal with one aspect of malnutrition, which is the micronutrient deficiency,
Yeah.
also called hidden
Hidden
hunger.
hunger, yeah.
I think it is important for us to know that over 1 billion people in India suffer from micronutrient deficiency across age groups, across sex, across regions, etc., etc. And I'll just start with the advocacy part first.
Sure.
When we started a business, when Bayer Consumer Health India started a business, when we opened our shutters about 4 years back, the first thing we did was to understand the extent of the micronutrient deficiency problem. And at that point in time, we did a survey amongst the doctors in India, amongst over 2,000 doctors in India, where we basically asked them what is the extent of the problem, right? So if, as an Indian, if I take a completely balanced diet, okay, will I be able to get 100% of my micronutrient requirements for the day? And the answer was a vehement no. Even with a perfectly balanced diet, you are most likely to get just about 70% of all the micronutrient which are required for you for that particular day. So that was a big eye-opener for us. We have then shared that study in the public domain. That study is being used by various companies, various organizations to formulate the public health strategies as well. When it comes to targeted interventions, the multivitamin supplement that we have in a portfolio and the B-complex product that we have in a portfolio is the most affordable multivitamin and B-complex in this country, right? So that is our current contribution when it comes to accessibility for everyone. So we have launched targeted products. The other thing that we will move into, given the diversity of India, is to try and understand which regions are deficient in which specific micronutrients.
That's very critical.
Yeah. So we will be looking at that as well to launch products which cater to a particular region itself. And when it comes to region, we've already identified some underserved communities in India. And like Edward was saying earlier, we have started a work in Karnataka, in rural Karnataka and in rural UP with Reach 52 and with Edward's organization, where we are first trying to understand what is the extent of this problem in rural India, and we've done this survey. So I think nothing in this country can move without a proper education, without proper awareness being generated for the consumers, for the product, for the people regarding the extent of this problem and regarding the fact that people really need to take their own care. They really need to adopt self-care.
We'll take a really short break. When we come back, we have our panelists with us and we also have Dr. Madan with us. So stay tuned, keep watching. Welcome back. We're talking about how important it is to prioritize nutrition, how as individuals and communities we can foster a healthier future. Joining us now also is Dr. Rakesh Verma, Principal Consultant, Health Ministry, Government of India, former additional DGHS, Government of India. So I want to ask you, how can individuals incorporate essential nutrients in their diet, especially when they're trying to deal with micronutrient deficiency?
See, one must realize that their nutrients are required for the body as a machinery to move. And the major nutrients are carbohydrates, fat, proteins, water and air. But there are certain micronutrients which are very essential for the life, and they can be divided in two groups. One is major micronutrients and the others is minor. Among the major micronutrients are sodium, potassium, calcium, phosphorus and sulfur.
Yeah.
And the minor ones are selenium, iron, chromium, copper, etc. And all these are essentially required. When they take the major nutrients like carbohydrate and fats, they need to be converted into energy molecule for the body, which body can consume. Now these micronutrients are required to facilitate that process. They are catalysts.
Okay.
They are like a bridge. If you want to cross from Delhi to Noida, you take a D&D bridge. So those bridges are required in the form of vitamins, in the form of micronutrients, which are essential for life.
Okay.
If we don't have, then as much as 23 to 24% of mortality was attributed in the geriatric persons due to the absence or lack of micronutrients.
Wow.
And in one study that was done in 2016, that's about 8 years back, they said they impact the GDP of this country by about 8% negativity. So this has got impact not only on individual but also on the society and on nation also. and the things percolate down from individual health to society's responsibility as well as nation's wealth also. So one has to be very cautious, alert and obedient for consumption and of micronutrients in the diet.
Dr. Madan, as an expert, in the field, when it comes to nutrition, in the significance of micronutrient supplementation, when we're talking about managing NCDs, the non-communicable diseases, and we see the number is going up, what are some of the most critical micronutrients that are often lacking in modern diets? If you can quickly tell us that, please.
India is having an epidemic of, the non-communicable diseases. We are the world's capital for diabetes and all the cardiometabolic risk factors. But I think, the story begins with curtailing the level of inflammation in the body. So the micronutrients which are really needed by us are the ones which have a strong, potent antioxidant action. So among those micronutrients, you have vitamin C, which is very important, zinc, which is very important, plus so that is something which brings down the levels of inflammation, because it works at the enzymic level. It works on enzymic system, and that's where these micronutrients, especially these micro minerals, become part of coenzymes and enzymes, and they facilitate the action of those antioxidant enzymes. Besides this, I think I already mentioned about vitamin D. Vitamin D deficiency must be checked, because very often it goes unattended, and we have found that vitamin D deficiency can precipitate insulin resistance and can lead to pre-diabetes and then apparent diabetes. Among other things, I think calcium and magnesium and potassium, especially out of the three, magnesium, potassium, we consider them as cardioprotective macronutrients, because magnesium is needed for the muscle contraction, potassium is very much needed for muscle agility, and maintaining the magnesium and potassium levels in the body again becomes very crucial in terms of maintaining the endothelial, that is the inner lining of the blood vessel function. Yes, so each one of them has a very, very important role, and it gets connected with the non-communicable diseases.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. Sandeep, if I can just quickly come to you here, Bayer has been looking at the link between good nutrition and productivity. We've spoken about it as well. What has the research really shown, and what solution is Bayer bringing on the table?
We did a study which was called the fatigue survey. So we wanted to understand the correlation between nutrition and fatigue, and to also understand the extent of the fatigue problem in India. And the results were very startling. We conducted the study amongst 25 to 45 age group workforce of this nation across multiple cities in this country. We figured out that 85% of the people, 85% of the adult workforce in this country wakes up fatigued. So you are waking up, okay, and you are waking up fatigued. Almost 80% of the people felt drowsiness throughout the day, felt sleepy throughout their work hours. And the even more startling fact over there, Ambika, was that when we segmented this study between 25 to 35 and 35 to 45, the younger age group actually felt more fatigue, and the younger age group actually felt more drowsy through the day than the slightly older age group.
Which you always imagine it'll be the other way around.
Exactly, which you would always should be the other way
exactly.
around ideally. But the other very eye-opening aspect on this survey was that, like Edward was saying earlier, most of these people felt that their diets were perfect. So only, I think, less than 15% of the people actually felt that their diets had something to do with it. So not only is there a problem, there is also a very little connectivity between the actual source of the problem to the problem amongst the Indian consumers. So what we are trying to do is to firstly raise the awareness that if you have a problem of fatigue, if you think that you were able to do things earlier, now you're not able to do all your tasks through the day, and then you're attributing it to what? You're attributing it to the fact that I'm getting older. That may not be the case. Figure out what is the reason for you not being able to do all the tasks easily like you were able to do.
Edward, if I can come to you, we've spoken about, the fatigue report. Also, you all did a collaboration, Bayer and Reach 52 in 2023. What were the key findings of the nutrient gap report, if you can tell us that briefly?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, as already mentioned, a lot of people felt they did have the right level of nutrition. In reality, 75 to 87% weren't. And then if we look at the people that didn't have the right levels of nutrition, that weren't taking supplementation, that didn't have that dietary diversity, what we've heard about already, almost came to life. More fatigue.
Yeah.
We saw links with chronic disease. We saw even links to mental health issues, were more common in the people that didn't have the right levels of nutrition or supplementation. Even some startling things that stood out to me and to some of our, colleagues and people involved in the report. People that, didn't have the right nutrition and weren't taking supplementation, twice as likely as to take a day off work.
Okay.
So whether you're a day wage labourer, whether you work in a tech firm or a government, office.
So it's impacting your daily life in some way or the other.
You're twice as likely to have a day off, for whatever reason it might be, but that jumped out. But, positively what we did see, working with health workers, doing education, running these events, by investing in awareness, education, knowledge, people start to take action. So we saw positive action, we saw people starting to try and improve their dietary diversity, so that by making people aware, raising the education levels, positive change can happen.
So once awareness is there, positive change can happen. I think that's the best thing to hear. And I think awareness really begins with us. Thank you all so much for coming, sharing your expertise. It's really been a pleasure to have you with us. So next week, we will uncover the transformative potential of technology in revolutionizing self-care and nutrition and explore innovative solutions to create a healthier, more sustainable future for all of us. Thank you so much for watching.